Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Allie and today is May 1st. It's Asian Readathon. Let's start. It's also Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. Let's go. I'm so excited to be participating in my first readathon. If you want more information on Asian Readathon, I will link Cindy's video down below. She is the one who created it about 4 years ago, I think. I also kind of went over the prompts and the books that I'm choosing for the prompts in my May TBR, so I'll link that in one of the corners here. And also, I was thinking that I would, with each ethnicity or country that the character or author is from for the book that I'm reading, I think I'm also going to eat the food from that country, ethnicity, etc. I live in Hawaii, which is very close to Asia, and many Asian countries. Why did I just say it like that? And so I'm lucky enough to have so many Asian cultures and so many Asian cuisines right here on this little island. So yeah, get ready for some good books, hopefully, and good food. I also plan on doing a different vlog for each of the prompts. So stay tuned and subscribe if you want to watch more of these. Okay, today's prompt. We're starting with prompt number 2. Prompt number 1 is just to read an Asian author. And so I'm kind of using that as my wild card at the end in case I end up buying some books that I see other people reading for their Asian readathons. Prompt number 2, which we will be tackling today, is, I believe, read a book by an Asian author about a female and or older character. So for that, I will be reading A Tale for the Time Being by Ruth Ozeki. From what I understand, based on the back of this book, this is a story about two perspectives and two characters. One is now, she is in Tokyo, she's being heavily bullied at school and she wants to kill herself. I believe in her points of view, it's the letters that she's writing in this Hello Kitty lunchbox. Our other perspective is Ruth. Maybe it is the same Ruth, who knows? She receives the letters, she finds them in the Hello Kitty lunchbox after a tsunami on whatever island she's living at. I think it's in British Columbia, not Hawaii, so. In these letters and stories and journal entries, Now is also telling the story of her great-grandmother, and so that is the old lady I will be talking about. Although Ruth, I believe, is married, so technically she's older than Now, who's 16 years old. So I am, first of all, very excited because this is gonna rip my heart out, I can already tell. But also there are so many different perspectives here in age, also probably in country, maybe in time. I don't know what the timeline's like. There's so much meat in the story and I'm excited to get into it. And then tonight, we are getting sushi from my favorite Japanese restaurant. So I'm gonna get started. I'm so excited. Okay, I always like to read the first sentence in my books, but this one's literally high. So the next sentence is, my name is Now and I am a time being. The intrigue is starting. Okay, yeah, so I just read the first chapter and it's Now's perspective. I die for a journal style book, a narration, especially of a young person, because I feel like that's such a authentic way to get feelings across, because when you write in a diary, you're very much performing in a way, but also you're aware that you're performing. So I don't know, I just love it. Already it's kind of funny, kind of sad. Okay, just as a note, there are footnotes in here and I thought they were just helpful little tips about, you know, learning about a culture that you might not be familiar with. But it seems to be a part of the story and I'm wondering who's actually creating these footnotes. Because on this one, Now is talking about Fuzzy Plushie in Bedtown, which is like some sort of weird cafe. And in the notes it says, can't find references to medical cafes or Bedtown. Is she making this up? And then I look over and there's gonna be some personality in these footnotes, so that's a part of the intrigue now. Okay, so we've gone to this place about 100 times, but we usually get takeout. This is the first time we're eating in. Are you excited?
Yeah.
This is Grant, by the way. Okay, what did you think? Which was your favorite role?
I'm just gonna go with the Royal Samurai because it's always the fave.
If you guys are in Oahu, you should go to Sakura in Mililani. Excellent.
Yeah, it was good. Very
It's
good.
expensive, but it's damn good.
It's probably the fastest sushi restaurant I've ever eaten at.
Yeah. That one was easy because we've been there 100 times, but I'm excited to try some newer places in the coming months. Are you ready? What are you most excited for out of what I told you?
Okay, I'm probably most excited for the Korean barbecue.
I forgot to say that we went and saw Everything Everywhere All at Once, which is, if you've seen Cindy's video, what her what her Asian readathon prompts are based off of, and my god, it was amazing. Like, I already expected it to be because it was A24 and it was critically acclaimed, but I didn't think it was gonna be so heartwarming. It was one of the funniest movies I ever saw. It was absolutely hilarious, but it was also, I cried. Babe, did you cry?
About what?
Everything Everywhere All at Once?
No, I didn't cry. But I get why someone would.
He's so tough.
It has to do with being soft. Oh, just kidding. No, it was good.
Our friend cried, although he said he didn't cry. He's like, my eyes are sweaty. Y'all need to just admit that you have a heart. These men, I tell you. Anyway, it was wonderful. If you haven't seen it, I really highly suggest you do. It was so good. Grant wanted to say
No, I didn't.
that he's participating in Pacific Islander and Asian American Heritage Month by playing Dragon Ball.
Look at me. You can't show that, it's copyrighted.
Okay, I'm about halfway through this and I'm really liking it. We obviously have Now's story, who's much more interesting to read about just because of the way it is a diary entry. So it's much more casual and funny, but also very sad. And then Ruth is interesting too, but her life, and maybe just the way it's narrated because it's in third person, but the people that she's surrounded with, her husband, but also the people on the island with her, they're very interested in like environmental biology, all of the creatures, but like very scientific, like the species name and I don't know, I'm an English major, but like all the levels of, what's it called, babe? Just going into like the kingdom and species, stuff like that. So it does feel a little textbooky. However, I really do like Ruth, and she's kind of struggling right now, but she has really befriended Now. And Now and her sort of are talking to each other, but not realizing it. But they are realizing it. It's kind of hard to explain, but it's really, really sweet, kind of in a sad way. There's a lot more to do with Zen Buddhism than I really thought, and it's interesting because I went back and leafed through the beginning of this, and the About the Author page is way up in the front, and Ruth Ozeki is apparently a Zen Buddhist priest, and she's also a professor at a university, so the kind of research, like the footnotes, she's very much Ruth. Basically Now has been going through a lot in her personal life. Right now she is spending the summer at her grandmother's temple because her grandmother is also a Zen Buddhist priest. And so she's learning a lot, and it's just nice, but also you have this impending worry for Now because you know that she's suicidal, and a lot of time must have gone by since she wrote this. So yeah, there's a lot going on. It can be a little slow during Ruth's part, but I feel like it's all coming together, and I'm becoming much more invested the more that I read. But instantaneously, like maybe because Now's writing style is so open, you're instantly drawn to Now. Also, there's just a little quote that I thought was hilarious because it's basically what I think every single time I talk to my camera. Apart from me, who else would care? It makes me sad when I caught myself pretending that everybody out there in cyberspace cared about what I thought when really nobody gives a shit. My god, this is about me.
Wait, is this a fucking play about us?
Hi, it's the next day. I'm hoping to finish this today. It's after work and I have half the book to read. I'm on page 197. I was thinking about a couple things I forgot to say yesterday, which was that although yes, I want to read Now's perspective like super bad, Like, I almost want to skip to hers. Obviously, I wouldn't because I'm an avid reader and I know how to control myself. But it's so funny because even Ruth is saying that she's struggling because she wants to just binge this whole journal that she has to read Now's story, but she's telling herself to take her time with it, which is interesting. It's almost like she's telling us to take our time with the story. I also wanted to say how much I love Pesto and Oliver. Oliver is Ruth's husband and Pesto is his cat. And they have like this spiritual connection and they are so cute. And then I think the third thing was just actually not that interesting, but they were talking about World War II and the bombing of Pearl Harbor. And then obviously everything that happened after that. And it was just kind of awkward because I'm in Hawaii, and actually the first month that we were here we stayed on Ford Island, which is pretty much Pearl Harbor, and like just down the street you could see bullet holes like in the fucking like road. I feel like there's something else that I'm forgetting that I'll forget again later. Oh well, here we go. In medieval Japan, people used to believe that earthquakes were caused by an angry catfish who lived under the islands. Obviously, this story is talking a lot about the 2011 tsunami in Japan, and I totally had forgotten about that. Like, I read about a tsunami happening in this story, and my brain didn't even go there. I was in like 11th or 12th grade, and obviously Ruth's paying a lot of attention to it because she's wondering, you know, what happened to Now, what happened to Jiko, and I'm wondering too. Dinner is heating up and I'm almost on page 300 and a lot of shit has gone down. We stayed with Now a lot of that time and oh, there's a lot of trigger warnings in here. I was gonna wait to the end to talk about them, but the one obviously is on the back of the book is that Now has thoughts about hurting herself, and obviously, well, I guess not obviously, but the very first page of her journal talks about how her dad has tried to kill himself, and just it's pretty intense, just everything that they talk about, even just, I don't know, it comes up a lot, so just warning. I am getting so attached to these people, even though they're making mistakes, they're just, oh, the word loser came up, and if you know, you know. I literally gasped and almost started crying. I don't even know what this update is, but I'm almost done. I don't know what I'm gonna do when this ends. I feel like this is the kind of book that I could calmly just read forever. More thoughts later. It's like 10:20 p.m. and I just finished. I feel like I need to process this. I wish it was light outside so I could go walking and like listen to the trees and the wind. I feel like if you read this book, you would know exactly the vibe I'm talking about. It's weird because we're reading a story about Ruth, who's reading a story about Now, who's reading a story about Haruki #1, her great uncle, who's also reading stories about philosophers. So it's very interesting in that aspect that there's so many effing layers to this and so many parallels within the stories to themselves. And then if you take a step back, which I think is very much what we're supposed to do, because there's so much talk about perception and audience and readers of stories, much like Ruth and Now, and literally everyone, that it's like, okay, wait, they're also talking to us because we are reading the story of Ruth. It's a mindfuck. And literally at the end, okay, first of all, I do have to admit, Ruth's story, I really do hold Ruth and Oliver and little Pesto close to my heart, and just that life that they live in the British Columbia. But it is very academic, that life that she lives. For a minute there, everything got very thrilling because we were at the peak of the story, I can't talk, okay? Everything was kind of up in the air and we were wondering, I was like really stressed. Ruth felt like a character in the book in that moment, but the last few pages, we literally had like 4 pages, Oliver trying to explain to Ruth and to us about quantum mechanics, and it was just a little much. It's very interesting, but it's just a strange way to end it. I really like the craziness and almost magical element that went into this book. I feel like that obviously leaned into, you know, what is perception, what is a story, and who is a writer. I don't know. I've got a lot of thoughts in my head right now and I'm kind of freaking out. having a total existential crisis, perhaps. All in all, I'm so happy I read this book. I will be thinking about it, I'm sure, for a very, very long time. And I honestly cannot wait to reread this. And it's funny because I'm sure at one point I'll reread only Now's stories, like only her journal. And then I feel like at other times I'd probably just reread Ruth's part of the story, which is interesting. This book has obviously given me so much to think about. So let me try to recommend this to people. I feel like there's so many different kinds of people and different interests in people to recommend this book to. Because like on one hand, if you care about teenage girls or women in general, I think you should read this book. If you're fascinated by philosophers, I think you should read this book. Obviously, quantum mechanics and quantum physics, that was almost a plot twist in itself. If you're interested in like oceanography and the classification, that's what I was trying to think of earlier. The classification of species and like plants and stuff. Who knew that was in this book? There was a lot about Japanese culture, especially Zen Buddhism, and just the practices and habits and routines of Now's great-grandmother. That part was really fun and interesting to learn about. My mind is blown right now. I think I'm gonna give it a 4.5 rating just because there were parts that maybe just my limited hobbies and interests. But if it were just Now's story, like it would have been a 5-star for sure. Not that I dislike Ruth. I love Ruth. I think she made part of the story what it was. But that is it. That is the end of my first Asian Readathon book completion. This is prompt number 2, and I think it's such a good selection for prompt number 2. This story had so many things going on. First of all, it had people of different nationalities and different ethnicities. But there are also so many people of different ages and different timelines and different circumstances completely. So excellent choice for this, if I do say so myself. So anyway, I think those are my final thoughts. I'm gonna go now. I need to think. Bye.